All right, Ryan, are you ready?
Yes, I am.
Easy. Well, welcome everyone to the February 2025 webinar. Today, our topic is Trends in Project Management for 2025. Thanks, Ryan. So just a few housekeeping before we begin. If you could please remain on mute throughout the presentation, that would be amazing. Unless you are asking a question, use your raise your hand tool or the chat function. There will be a Q&A at the end, so you can wait for that. Thanks, Ryan. All right, so for today, we have Ryan Darby speaking, and I'll pass it over to you, Ryan.
Thank you very much, Ellie. Hello, everyone. Welcome to Wednesday at the end of February. It feels like the year's almost over. We'll be into Easter and planning Christmas very soon, but it's hopefully still early enough to actually look at a bit of the trends that we're seeing emerge for 2025 and what's actually coming. So we're going to talk about what's coming for project management and for the PMO through the year and the organization generally. We're going to look at what the barriers seem to be. There are a few, things that may get in our way of having awesome project management. And like everything these days, we have to talk about some artificial intelligence because it is just absolutely everywhere, of course. So there are a lot of predictions for 2025 in terms of project management specifically. We will talk about the PMO a little bit later. Now, I'm not going to go through every single one of these because it may just be a little too much, but there are a few things we'll call out. Look, generally, project management has been evolving for a number of years, and when we see that continuing, it's really about soft skills. It's about the emotional intelligence, emotional quotient. This is becoming more and more important as we go forward. So we will talk a bit about that. The concept of nudge technology, small tools to move people along in their tasks. We are going to look at that. We will talk about AI a little bit because I'm sure you're all using AI for various things and it's becoming more workflow centric as opposed to just chatbots, as we've seen. This is getting important. And those bots, though, we are seeing reports that they are starting to replace middle managers. And there is, if you're in middle managers on the call, sorry, but there is a survey out there where 78% of people think that a bot will do a better job than their manager. That's a slightly scary statistic, but we'll maybe delve into that. The PM role is evolving and it's doing more than just project management because projects themselves are evolving. The world's evolving and the whole cyber concept and cyber resilience is becoming really important. And the thing we've been talking about for the last 30 years, agile, well, it's becoming more agile, but hybrid is becoming less of an excuse and more of the norm as we go forward as well. So we will talk about that. Being responsible in terms of how we're actually delivering these projects is becoming a very important thing. And the concept of sustainable project management, we won't go into that, but becoming really important. And diversity, excluding all the American stuff we've seen going on at the moment, but diversity is becoming more important, but is evolving as well, and really starting to focus on taking advantage of how people can be, or advantage of people that are now included, as opposed to only just beefing the numbers up. So it's kind of maturing as we go forward. So let's actually look at a few of these in a bit more depth. Now, the first one is AI. It's kind of like the big elephant in the room type of thing. And let's also go back in time. So some of you may remember that stat on the left that I presented back in 2019, which turns out is now 5-ish years ago, 6 years, I don't know, a long time ago, pre-COVID, it's another world. And Gartner was saying then that 80% of today's project management tasks will be eliminated by AI by 2030. Well, guess what? We are halfway to 2030. Okay, so if anyone's feeling old, this is why. Um, I'm not completely convinced about that half of our tasks or 80% of our tasks have disappeared already. So we've got 5 more years to go. AI is accelerating, but I'm interested in what you've heard. So what Eddie's going to do, Eddie's going to load up a poll, and the poll may just take a little bit to load, but
It's
this
getting there.
poll is going to see, have any of you seen or heard any real evidence of AI eliminating PM tasks? It doesn't mean getting rid of you entirely. It means making things a little bit easier for you and saving your time. Okay, we have a few people. The no's are leading here. 73% are no. 22 of you are in. Okay, I got 38 on the call. Check some responses in there. 27 responses, still the no's, 70% of no's. There's 17 of you saying yes, that's interesting, and 13% of you are saying, well, now 16% are saying yes, and 13% are saying no, but we're implementing tools to head in the direction. The general number, still 73% saying no. Okay, so not seeing any change yet. It's not quite, not necessarily surprising. If we think about what is Gartner actually talking about when they say that, it doesn't mean that we are going to lose all the project managers. It means that things are changing in the world and there's being a bit of a change in focus around what's expected from projects and what's expected from success. And the definition of success is changing. So I've had this slide up last month as well, and I think it's an important one. It's a PMI's relatively new definition of project success, and it's moving away from the old iron triangle of I've got cost, I've got time, I've got scope or quality, and that's all I care about in terms of this. And it's starting to change it to be more, well, did the project deliver value? Was it worth the effort and worth the expense? Were the stakeholders happy? Was there a consensus view across all the beneficiaries that we got value? You know what? If that's okay, then we consider that successful. If you think about, well, how are you going to get to that point? The point of being able to say that, hey, everyone agreed that this thing was actually successful. Well, we're going to have to start using that AI that Gartner's talking about and getting rid of some of the grunt work. So pushing, not getting rid of the project managers, but getting rid of some of the work we never wanted to do, like spend all day in spreadsheets, push that below the line. It means that project professionals and project managers can focus more on value. They can focus on managing up and relationships. Executives can structure the organization to realize that project managers are business partners, they're not administrators. So actually use the project manager as someone you have that relationship with who can help you get to a point of value. Okay, so the role of the project manager rises up essentially. The role of the grunt work goes down, and as a result, the overall success, which has changed, the definition of success has changed, becomes far more strategic. Everyone supported by AI is actually able to support that new value-driven view of success. So a bit of a change. I tend to, at the moment, even though I do this stuff for a living, we are kind of in that poll, the yes, the no, and the yeah, we're working on the tools. We've seen a mix of all those things. I would say the no's is probably about 70% right, but I can see this changing. There's a lot of opportunity there if you are a project manager to actually get some personal help for yourself, and a lot of opportunity for organizations to focus a bit more, use AI to get rid of the boring work and let project managers be more human. And we will talk about that in a little while as well. Now, AI, more AI. Sorry, there's not going to be a whole AI thing, I promise you, but a little bit more AI. So Gartner, again, 2025, they're saying is the two trends around technology specifically is agents and governance. And this coincidentally aligns with the questions I keep getting asked. Is all about agents and AI, and people keep asking me about governance. So if you are doing work, project work, implementing agents or implementing governance processes and platforms around the use of AI agents, co-pilots, etc., this will become that next hot thing that people are going for. Okay, so expect to see that appearing in the want ads essentially as we go forward. Now, these are quite foundational as well. They're not just kind of the next trendy thing to do. We have to get agents in place, we have to get governance in place, and then we can get to what is the next trendy use of an agent. But we step towards that slowly. But you would like some of this on your CV if you are looking for a job next year or this year. Now, one of the small different new sort of things is the concept of nudging. And this is conceptually interesting, and we're going to see how the tools start supporting this as we go forward. One of the sort of nudging, what is nudging? Okay, nudging is controlling behavior or influencing behavior, nudging behavior as opposed to control. From a project management perspective, we tend to come from this world where we are Controlling is the response to things. We need improvements in we need performance improved on the project. So let's measure a bit more. Let's report a bit more. Let's get some KPIs in there. It doesn't always work for people though, okay? And if you think of that definition of success not being the old iron triangle so much anymore, but more of a, are you delivering value and are people happy with that value? Well, it then starts becoming far more important that the team is supported, team dynamics, team relationships, and their relationship and belief in the project's success, as opposed to I'm doing it just to keep my traffic light green. That becomes far more important. So what we see is processes, approaches, and tools that realize that most people are doing work every day. 45% of daily decisions are made without thought. They just like, yeah, we just kind of, something came up, we just dealt with it, and we didn't sit and think about these things. So nudging is a way to influence the choice in an individual. And this can come about in many ways. I've just picked 4 ways. If you Google nudging, you can actually find, especially nudging in project management, you will find a lot of stuff out there now. It's becoming a sort of an emerging topic. One of the things is message framing. So using tools to actually change the contents of the message depending on the audience and changing the message to influence to structure in such a way that it's kind of like giving them a choice, like dealing with a child. You don't ask a child what do you want for dinner. You say, would you like spaghetti bolognese or would you like vegetables for dinner? And they get a choice. They don't get to actually decide themselves. How we're starting to see this happen a lot is use of Copilot. So AI again, I know, but there's a bit of it in here. The using Copilot or AI to rewrite the messages to change depending on the audience. So the message for the manager is different from the message for the team, and also to structure the message in a way that you are sort of nudging them towards a response. So instead of you trying to think, how am I going to communicate this? I give it to AI and I said, look, can you rewrite this for me in a way that can subtly manipulate, and it's not necessarily a bad word, but can you subtly manipulate the way they're going to respond to this? Another way is task reminders. So people tend to pay more attention to what they need to do when they get a reminder and a warning than they do to the original plan. So the act of planning, really important. People then tend to just ignore the plan, especially if it's an MS project schedule, they just ignore that. So we start bringing things in through tools like, Sensei obviously has tools, or anything you're using dashboards, using agents or AI to help remind people. And more we'll see little task tools and little pop-up type tools saying, hey, Ryan, did you remember you meant to get this done tomorrow? You're like, oh, okay, I better get focused on that, because we realize that people don't proactively go and look at a schedule anyway, okay? And it also means from a PM process perspective, this concept of having ongoing rituals, and these are being supported by advisors that are giving you reminders and giving you feedback as you go through that, both constant motivation and also constant awareness of what needs to be done, and this immediate close the loop of feedback on how did it go. Okay, so I'm giving you feedback before you get to the next task. So the agile becomes even more agile in terms of that process as we go. And the last one, just there are many to call out, but the last one I'll focus on is defaults. It's about communication. It's about realizing people tend to take the path of least resistance, and they prefer to start work with something already created. They would rather, if let's say we have to write a business case as an example, instead of sitting and thinking, like I said, and I think it takes me hours to just get that first sentence down, so you got to get my thoughts right. It's more a case of use the AI to come up with the starting point and you then modify it and change it. So more and more as we start doing work in all our systems, we will start getting like, hey, you need to do this. I've created a starting point for you. So I'm kind of nudging you to get going. You focus on correcting what I've done as opposed to thinking of it from scratch. So use of nudging, use of AI still doesn't replace the project managers. It means the project managers are more focused on getting the AI to do things for them and more focused on editing what the AI has created as opposed to creating stuff from scratch. Okay, now, well, there is this AI thing, and we do know that there is a potential for a worry. Will AI replace jobs? And what I've been saying through this is that one of the trends, of course, it's AI. But if AI is replacing the grunt work, well, what is the grunt work? The grunt work is how a lot of people on this call started their career. They've got this project management career or career in a PMO. They may have started as a junior entry point where they're taking notes and they're doing scheduling and they're an assistant to a project manager and they kind of work their way up. What happens if AI actually starts to replace this type of work? There is a book out there called Built to Serve that's actually worth having a look at that does actually explore this. And what it's about is freeing those people up to not take the old career path. It's about helping them move into more intelligent work to start with, as opposed to, yeah, just be secretarial. So think of the example in Built to Serve is, where did the secretaries go? Secretaries didn't exist in the past. Then for a while, 100 years or so, secretaries were a huge part of the economic workforce. And now we have far less secretaries because we have tools doing this. Those people have moved on to do other things. So now there's much more of a focus on things like HR and marketing, etc. And this is what we see is these people will migrate into different roles instead. And these roles really will be up in the higher level. Now, the key to making this work, the key to making this let AI come in or let tools come in and allow these entry-level jobs to migrate upwards. That doesn't mean more senior, it just means doing more valuable work. The key is, how does the organization choose to adapt here? Which path do they go down? And there's kind of a left and a right path here. And you can see in the news all the time, companies are going one way or the other. The easiest option is to simply eliminate those jobs. That's it. We just lay the people off. Um, Current forecast is 1 million admin jobs in the US, and specifically just the US, will be removed by 2029. Well, I'm saying we should migrate those jobs instead. So if we instead go down the green path, we have a different outcome. Down the red path, well, we eliminate those jobs. You save money as an organization, great. But are you any more valuable? Are you actually achieving more as an organization? No, actually, you're not. If you instead focus on upskilling those people and maturing those people into higher value jobs, get them into strategy, becoming more and more important, get them into project management. Don't be a secretary, be a junior project manager, and get them into operations roles. This means that you as an organization are actually able to focus. Think back to the success definition. We are focusing on true value as opposed to what those people were doing in the past, is generally just counting things and putting them in a spreadsheet. So you on the call will have to reflect on what you think your organization is doing and what type of organization it is. I believe that the ones who will be ultimately successful are the ones that go down the green path and they actually allow the humans to rise up and be more valuable, supported by the AI, and don't just get rid of the AI, but to get rid of the humans. Now, as part of this, the project managers are obviously going to have to kind of grow up themselves a bit. So the old, I'm a project manager because I memorized the PMBOK and I know how to do Excel formulas and I know how to tick tasks off in a schedule. I'm a scheduling expert. That becomes less relevant. What becomes more relevant is if you start getting your head around strategy. So don't be a process expert. Don't be an Excel expert. Really focus on that strategic focus. Focus on being a change agent. I don't mean dealing with just change, control variances and things. There is a whole body of people out there who are change managers. Project manager, change manager, relationship manager, it starts blurring somewhat, okay? So if you're a project manager on here, you're thinking of what's next, have a look at change management. You'll find that this gets you above the admin, it gets you focusing on the why things are actually happening, and it allows you to bridge not just managing the change, but understanding the strategic reasons for the change, and you manage across all of that. Another thing that's really rising up is analysis, data analysis, understanding all this stuff. The AI, all the AI is doing is making us realize we've got a lot of data. So we need to really focus on using the AI to do the grunt work, like filling the spreadsheet in. We focus on actually analyzing it and acting on the suggestions. So data analysis, data science, etc., becoming really, really important as we go forward. And as I said, EQ, collaboration, relationships, and physically making things happen as opposed to recording how they happened. That becomes really important as we go forward. So I think this means you as project managers can rise up a level, be more human. There is Tony Riddle has done some writing on this. Definitely worth looking at some of his stuff. It's really, he calls it be more human. It's get rid of the grunt work so you can focus on what's important to you. I think this is important. So it's really about values more than anything else. Now, that PM role, okay, yes, you become more human, you become higher level, more strategic focused. But this really is just moving you up in the existing hierarchy of work. The hierarchy is getting wider as well. So in the past, we had to, as project managers, know a bit about our subject area. If you are IT focused, well, actually, these days, if you're anything focused, the concept of cyber security is becoming really important. It's not just an IT issue. It's not just, yeah, IT will put a firewall in place and take care of these things for us. There is more and more of a need to realize that cyber is like a cold war going on out there. That's really important. There's a need for PMOs to actually build tasks into their processes and their frameworks to take cybersecurity into account. It's not that we can only deliver the project or let the IT guys do their thing. The IT guys still do their thing. We need to, as a business overall, an organization overall, own cybersecurity because it will impact all of us. It also means that project managers have to spend time working closely with cybersecurity experts to ensure their project can succeed and doesn't get disrupted along the way. There are a lot of actors out there who are spending a lot of time and effort, and these very smart people, trying to disrupt what everyone in the world, and definitely in Australia as well, are doing. So getting your head around the basics of cybersecurity is no longer an IT thing, and it's something any project manager should do. So don't just memorize the PMBOK, become more of a strategy focused change management person, emotional intelligence person, but also kind of go the other way and think a bit about the becoming more a fay with the detail of cybersecurity. So you can help the cyber resilience of your organization, or your project will go nowhere if it gets disrupted. Now, let's talk about process. I promise I won't talk about agile AI for a little bit at least. So from a process perspective, for a long time now, agile has been a thing. It's been growing. It's been important. So generally, we sort of thought a long time ago that agile will replace everything. We're at a point now where waterfall is kind of becoming derogatory. We like no one wants to say, yeah, we do a waterfall project. They only focus on the negative around that. The reality is, though, it has a place, and it's about predictive process versus adaptive process. A predictive process, like waterfall or that start of thing, involves significant planning, a lot of monitoring. Now, that sounds bad, but there's some good to it as well. The adaptive approach, which is conceptually or generally very agile, is very focused on the needs of users, much more iterative, much more able to change the approach as the context changes. That particular part is not always there in agile, but it's more the concept of adaptive project management sort of becoming more important. So we now see predictive project management versus adaptive project management. Agile just happens to be a subset of adaptive, but both of these things are still valid. And it leads us to more and more hybrids. So what we're seeing in a lot of our clients is that they have agile. They may have multiple types of agile out there, and they start creating blended versions of agile. They still do the predictive side, so they are still doing sort of waterfall, and there are reasons for it, and they're also now starting to blend these. So there's more and more of a hybrid going on. But a hybrid doesn't mean like, yeah, we do agile or something like that. It just means you've actually thought about layers. So we have a layered approach here, strategy on the top, and that may be very predictive. We have next layers down where we are sort of having transitional stages going through, and these are predictive or waterfall type stages. Within these, we may have different agile approaches. Across all of this, we may build governance in to give us a way to detect how well we're doing and modify the approach through projects as well. That's really what adaptive project management is about. You don't have to be committed for the life of a project to one approach. It's okay to adjust this as you go. So becoming this dyed-in-the-wool zealot focused on, no, you must only do it this way and this is what's important, that, and there are a lot of people that made a career out of that, that's becoming less important. And it's more a case of, can you be someone who can help constantly design and redesign the process as you go forward? So the hybrid approaches are giving us this layered approach, giving us a way to address the concerns about predictive, it's two waterfall, also giving us a way to address the concerns about agile. And people could say agile's not focusing on early enough planning, early enough risk, etc. Well, we get the best of both worlds now. It gives us a way usually to get the best of both worlds in resource utilization. So I need to do some high level planning in advance, but I need maybe stable agile teams that I can use. It gives me a way to actually be more optimal. And it gives the people at the top of the organization a chance to feel they're getting what they need, but it tends to empower the people doing the work that, like, yeah, we're living in, there's waterfall above there, but down here we're empowered to do our own thing and we know we can change the process as we go. So hybrid important, adaptive project management very important. It's sort of what's in that sort of yellow-orange circle becomes the real focus going forward. So yes, it's hybrid, but it's adaptive as well. And you're getting enough of the predictive coming in through the hybrid. Now, to think about these things really just depends on the nature of the project, and it will differ. And the whole point of adaptive means it doesn't have to be one and only one. Okay, we can mix and match and we can change these things per project. It's important, any system you've got, that you can chop and change these things somewhat as you go through. So if you are doing very high frequency of delivery, you may need a more incremental approach. If you are doing, you need more of an iterative approach where you are dealing with change all the time. And you will lie somewhere in the point of, well, here I am never changing things and I'm only delivering once. So yeah, I'm going to be very predictive. If I need to chop and change all the time, I'll be very agile or adaptive. Or maybe I'm in what's becoming the kind of sweet spot, which is now becoming the sort of hybrid adaptive sitting over there instead. Okay, now another thing. If you're in Australia, most of you on the call will be, it's election time. Don't forget Mayor Quimby. Vote for him because he would vote for you. Okay. So we will do a little poll on this. 2025 has got a lot of elections going on. WA, you've got one in March. We've got a federal one coming up soon. People are talking about that like crazy. There are spending freezes. We expect this may kick in soon. We are seeing some spending habits change already because of the coming election. We also see on the other hand that people are starting to think about, well, maybe we can get something through before the election, or if there is a change in government, maybe we can get something through and there'll be new commitments. So there will be people coming, wanting to spend for those election promises. So I'm interested in you. Have you seen any projects be stopped or changed because of elections, either state level or if you're in WA or in on the federal level? I've got a few people, 6%, only 16 responses so far. Not everyone on the call will be government. I think government will be more impacted. Yeah, 5% are saying yes, and it's growing, 8% now. So it's growing. So we are seeing, and I think this will accelerate. And 11, okay, it's coming up. I think we will see this accelerate a bit as we go, but it is something to take in mind as a project manager. Just be aware of it. You don't want to kind of forget about this and suddenly get a bit of a surprise. Or if you are dealing with contracts and things, just realize that this may impact you a bit. Okay, now the PMO. We've kind of spoken about project management. I want to just cover off a little bit about the PMO. There's always so much changing in PMO land, and a lot of it's related to what's happening with the projects. What we're seeing very much as strategy and value, of course, become the focus. PMOs become change officers, strategy officers more than anything. We from Sensei, we obviously deal with tools and helping, implement these for clients. the requirements we get through are very focused on strategy and value. So this is more and more becoming a thing, long range planning and road mapping and all that type of thing. That's what the PMOs are after. They're sort of assuming that, yeah, reporting's automated, etc. We'll still see people keep automating reporting, but the things that are rising up. The concept of revenue generation for PMOs is an interesting one. So starting to see a bit of that, where PMOs are actually measured in terms of return on investment, but not as like, are you being very efficient at your job? It's more you as a PMO. If you are now responsible for managing the overall strategy and the mix of projects, what's the return on these things? So this really does start making PMO managers become executive level, essentially. Data, okay, I did say I wouldn't talk about AI for a while. It's been a while. Data mainly driven by AI, really. Data for decision making and data-driven decision making is becoming more and more important. So if you don't really have a good handle on data or the basics of data science, etc., how to analyze data, this is something that PMOs need to get their head around. The concept of metric libraries is something I find quite interesting. Again, with the strategic focus, what are our KPIs? What are our RAGs? What's important that we measure by? So having standardized sets of these in an organization to stop every team just making their own up, but we think this is important. This is the standard centralized list that you can pick from. Pick whatever you want, but these things do relate to the strategy, and it gives you a way to align. Is that team completely focused on what they should be doing towards our strategy? And a way to pick that up is if there are 30 different metrics that this organization has, they've picked 5 of them. Are they represented at 5? So this is becoming an interesting concept. And I think from a tool perspective, it'll become more and more interesting where everyone says, oh, I want it done this way. And I want, status measured this way. And I want status measured that way. We're like, well, you actually have to have a centralized list now. It's becoming a bit interesting. And I've spoken enough about agents, obviously, but agents will apply to the PMOs as well. Those of you who are using a system, I hope you all using the Alta system. If you're not, please talk to me and we're more than happy to sell it to you. But we're seeing a lot of relationship or tighter relationships in the world really around project management systems like software as a service type stuff and project management service, so consulting companies doing it. Sensei has partners that we work very closely with, and quite a few of our clients are having a combination of the tool and a project management advisor and partner helping them manage projects as a service, all coming together. So these are not separate things anymore. And obviously using AI again, but using AI not as ChatGPT and stuff, but mining your old data and using it specifically to learn lessons. We will talk about that in a while. This concept of just celebrating success, I think we have to be reminded to do that occasionally. I'm seeing a bit out there of people are starting to really try and make 2025 the year in which we've gotten over all the sad times and the COVID and all that stuff. Let's focus on celebrating success and what's important out there, or what the people have done. So as we kind of start coming towards the end here, we've spoken about that strategic focus. PMOs and project managers get more of the strategic focus. One of the things that is a common thing out there, everyone knows about the strategy execution gap. This is something that Gartner coined years ago, decades ago. Well, what we actually are starting to see is questioning around, is this real or not? Okay, when I saw that, I was like, well, this is a bit interesting. Who dares challenge the fact that there's a strategy execution gap? We do entire, there are courses on this stuff. So the idea behind the gap is that someone comes up with strategy, but it doesn't quite translate across to what people physically do and the execution of things, or when they are delivering projects, etc., they are not referencing or staying within the context of that strategy. So these things are never quite aligned. And so the thinking that's changing coming out there is like, well, is it real, this gap, or is it just an excuse? Is it, people are saying, well, there is a gap, there'll always be a gap. But is that just that you have a bad strategy and you have bad management, bad execution? So maybe you're setting a strategy and putting it in the bottom drawer, never referring to it, or your managers are just left to go wild essentially and do whatever they want. So a lot of focus we're seeing is where people start focusing everyone on value and prioritization. So understanding on a project, documenting the value in the prioritization, making it very in your face. We are seeing more and more people not just think about projects, but about initiatives and all the other work, but also carving time out for innovation. A lot of the strategic focuses and the value is people need time to innovate, and AI can help them with that, just dropping AI in there again. But it's doing work plus having time for non-work to actually innovate. This is becoming more and more of a thing, actually. We're seeing a lot of people start to implement feedback loops from their customer. So getting more frequent feedback coming in to make sure you are doing the right thing. And before they surface or start work, it's really surfacing lessons. And this is an AI thing, and I'll show you this in the next slide. But before I start work, let me use the AI tools to tell me, is it focused on the strategy and what's going to go wrong? So tell me about all the risks and the lessons that the last 10 years worth of projects have actually dealt with in the past. And then PMOs about communicating up. So the typical PMO sits in the middle, trying to keep all these project people happy, trying to influence executives above them to mature. Well, now it's becoming more and more of a focus on that communicating up. So one of the things is to try and do all of this, we do need to think about data and the rise of data. So data is becoming, the concept of data-driven decision making is becoming more and more important. And this really will guide you to making the right strategic choices, okay? And will help you deliver your projects. So from a PMO perspective, there is a bit of a process to think about here because you have a lot of data, you probably just don't know about it. So I've created this little process to just try and help anyone who needs to think about it, especially if they are bringing AI in here or they're just doing more and more reporting. It is data driving their decision making. Define why you want to do it and what's important to you. That will help you identify what data you need, but you then have to clean that data. Now, this is kind of a bit of a loop, really. You have to then think about the usefulness of that data. Not everything you've got is useful. We've all got SharePoint libraries full of stuff. Okay, not all of it's good. Then you might need to think about some AI in there like an agent to help you actually use this data. But don't stop then. Someone must own the data. So at the moment, generally no one owns the data. Or the PMO nominally owns the data, but doesn't do anything with the ownership. So you need to think about, okay, I own the data and I will keep it up to date. So whatever tools we put in place, doesn't have to be AI, but anything we do that is using data to try and help decision making, got to keep evaluating that. Is the data still good? And because as more data gets fed in, is it getting sort of off track here? And how can we adjust as we go through? So there's always going to be a bit of a tail of ownership of data and cleaning the data as you go forward. Okay, so a bit of a poll. So Ellie will bring a poll up. It just takes a while to load these things. Who's actually started cleaning their data up for the purposes of AI, knowing AI is either here or coming, either AI or just we know data is important. We need to actually start prepping for this. Okay, so we got 13% have said yes, and we evenly split between no, although we're planning it. Okay, coming 47% saying no, we're planning it, and 42% no, haven't thought about it. Okay, so about half are saying that no, but they are planning it, and to kind of add it together, about 60% are between yes and they're planning to do something about it. That's actually a good number. So I think that people are getting their head around this, they're realizing the importance of this. If you're not doing it, it's something you should probably start thinking about. Okay, now one of these things you can actually get if you do have good data is you can actually focus on the past. So some obvious use cases, and I'm pushing the AI thing a bit here, but AI is really good. We have generative AI at the moment. It's really good at helping you figure out, am I aligned to strategy? Is that business case aligned to strategy? Have they been convincing in the way they've written it? Secondly, are you double counting benefits? Look across all the things out there and look at what they mean versus what they've said and figure out, are you double counting benefits? And also help me be experienced by looking at all the lessons and all the risks in the past. And this is just a screenshot on the right of something we've built at Sensei, where there's a proposal, like a business case coming in. It will go and find lessons or will find risks and do all these things. And help you understand what else is out there that has been done or is currently being done that could actually impact you. Okay, so something to think about, and just a bit of a use case for how you start using the AI at your disposal. Okay, now metric libraries I did speak about. I'll just briefly go over this. The point of these is that you don't all come up with a standard or your own way of measuring. You have a standard set to select from. Select what you want, obviously the relevant ones for you. This will make sure that you have overall, you are looking at your strategy, you are looking at metrics to guide you to do the work in the right way. And these are linked to strategy to making sure you're doing the right work overall. And when we bring together AI, it helps us make sure, are we using the right processes? Are we using them the right way? And are we working within a description of the strategy? So are we still fitting in with the strategy? And are we also then uh, referencing the metrics? Are we progressing in the way we need to do? And this can be across different tools, description of strategies, put it on the internet. AI assistant, use Copilot, processes within Word, and things like Copilot can bring all the stuff together for us. Okay, now, as we come to the end here, is 2025 going to be a smooth year? Every year, at the moment, it feels like, oh no, what's next? Okay, what's coming next? Well, there are a few barriers to project management in 2025. Retirement, the aging population is actually starting to peak. So you'll find a lot of project managers retiring out. Now, I don't know the age of people on this call, but you will find that there are opportunities as well as disadvantages to starting to lose people into the workforce. We do have a general lack of AI skills, and there are a lot of organizations approaching this from a technical perspective when they should approach it from a business problem perspective. But you may find you need to rapidly upskill in terms of just understanding how to use these tools. You don't have to be an AI expert, you just need to be comfortable using them. Cyber resilience becoming more and more important, as I've said, but we don't have the skills. I personally do not know very much about that at all. Nothing. It's something that we need to all, it becomes like just a life skill, really. Constant theme I've had through here is that the big trend is that project management rises up and becomes focused on value and strategy. But not everyone currently has the skills or the mindset to do it, or organizations are not structured to let people do it. So we do need to think about that. And another one is the concept of loneliness. Even within the project manager population, people are spending more time looking at the screen of their phone, and they are spending less time interacting with the people around them. But we know the only way to get focused on awareness, the value and strategy is if you are becoming more of that emotional animal as such, and are able to go out there and actually engage with everyone. So we're kind of being pulled into directions. Populations generally are becoming lonely, but the only way to succeed is to become that people person and build those relationships. So it's a hard one. So I think that just general anguish as a result of this is part of the prediction, I'm afraid. Okay, so this takes us to the end. I don't know if anything is actually in the chat. I will just open this up. Has anyone got any questions? Anyone comments about this? If you do want to, be in a bit of a high level kind of thing we've gone through. If anyone does want to unmute themselves and make a comment or ask a question, you're welcome to do that, or you can stick it into the chat. I don't think there are any questions there at this point. No, they're not. Anyone got anything you want to talk about, or? There is, okay, Lance, you have put your hand up. There is just while Lance unmutes himself and asks his question, Ellie has brought up a poll that we try to do on just general feedback on the session. So please feel free to put a vote in on that as well. Yeah, Lance, how you going?
Yeah, good, thanks, Ryan. Good session as always. Just a quick question there. Can you talk to any experiences you've had with organizations actually using AI or Copilot to condense or to start bringing together what you alluded to there in the metric library? How have they been looking at that, or is it it's more just sort of hand curated at the moment?
So we're seeing it happen in two forms. One is non-Copilot, just in when reports are built, someone has a spreadsheet or a Word document describing these metrics, and you must work within these metrics. When we come to Copilot, what we are seeing is people are documenting out the standard process, which includes the standard metrics, and they're feeding that as one of the knowledge sources into Copilot. So everything else that gets fed in there, let's just use the business case example as a classic one. We then feed all the business cases. We point Copilot to it as a general knowledge source to the library of business cases, and we can have it evaluate those, or we can feed a new one in. It's looking at old business cases, and it's also looking at a secondary knowledge source, and we can say, what's the priority here? So it can actually say, well, you're coming up with all these things. They don't seem to fit within the metrics. And by the way, they in addition are clashing with some other business cases, just as an example. So I can't say we are seeing a big implementation of this yet, but we are seeing the thinking going in the direction that people are starting to document the stuff, and they'll then start feeding it into Copilot as a result. That's kind of the first step. Okay, any other questions? Any comments? If not, we will let you go. Have a great rest of the week. I may see some of you on Monday. So there's another webinar on Monday, which is talking about prioritization. This is an LTIS specific thing. We will talk about prioritization as a concept generally, but we'll mostly be looking at a demo of the new functionality coming out with an LTIS. So it'll be more of a selfie focused thing, but most of you got the tool anyway. It's just giving you a pre-look at what's coming. Thank you all very much. Thank you for organizing everything, Ellie. And we will see you next time.
Thanks very much.
Wait, Kelly has put a hand up. Kelly, go for it.
Sorry, I'm not on the list for the prioritization one for Monday. Would you be able to send that through to me?
I'll be sending the recording of this session to everyone, and I'll send over a link as well. So everyone should be
Awesome.
able to get both.
Thank you very much. Thank
No
you.
worries. All right. Thank you, everyone.
Okay. Thank you all. Bye.